Right.
What's generating the leads isn't necessarily generating the sales. So stop seeing leads as a measure of success. It doesn't mean anything.
Today I have Simon Delaney, the CEO of a company called Databowl. Now, in our market here in Spain and real estate, where lead generation is a huge part of the operation for many of these agents, you have a very clear idea of what people need to take into consideration when looking at lead gen and converting leads.
I've been doing lead gen since 2006. In a roughly 2016, moved more into technology. So Databowl is a SaaS business that lead buyers use to verify, validate, qualify, and route data to other systems. So it acts a bit like a firewall where we can measure exactly all the sources and how they're performing and everything else. I deal a lot with companies that are buying leads, and I deal a lot with companies that are generating leads. And I've done a huge amount of lead generation and lead buying within that since 2006, as you mentioned. Some of the biggest problems, and they're sort of universal within lead generation, is going after low CPLs is like always a problem.
Cost per lead.
Yeah, exactly. Cost per lead. As if, exactly like you said, it's a measure of success in some way. Like, oh, look, I can get these leads at 10p. I'm not going to have to buy those ones at £20, whatever. But it's like a false economy completely. And I've seen this like time and time and time and again. I've worked with companies at both ends. So the buyers of making them see that they need to work to their ROI, not to the lowest CPL they can get. And I've worked with lead generators as well that are used to selling like either, I don't know, list data or co-reg leads or co-sponsor leads at a really low rate, and it's just like a race to the bottom constantly, and moving them up a tier where they create their own lead gen brands to get much greater intent leads. And so this thing with concentrating on low cost per lead just causes a lot of problems, really. You know, you have like high operating costs for your sales team. You have demoralized sales agents because they're just sitting calling people constantly that just aren't interested in their products or service. And you actually like harm the brand quite a lot that you're calling from. So in your instance, if it's a real estate brand or a property developer that's trying to, create a buzz around the thing, imagine a negative buzz where, this asshole's been calling me from this property thing. I didn't even want a property, So it all depends on the intent of the lead, and there are various mechanisms that you can put in place to improve that and to measure it.
In a typical situation here in the real estate sector, an agent will either be getting leads from a property portal and they'll be handling them directly, or they'll be getting leads through an agency that's generating the leads for them through Google Ads, that sort of thing. And the handover is, here's your lead, and the reporting is, this is the cost per lead, and I have a target of leads to get to. And am I right in saying that what you're saying is that for this to make any sense, we kind of need to know what happens after the lead is generated and what is producing the sale, and then track that right back to the beginning? Without that, it's just smoke and mirrors.
So the first thing I'd concentrate is, don't concentrate on leads, concentrate on sales. And that basically informs everything. So, and specifically the ROI within the sales. And so the first thing you need to look at when leads are coming in and you track it back to sales is, how is each channel performing? And go as granular as you possibly can within this. This would be keywords on Google. It would be the different property portals, separate all of those. Anything that you're doing, get as granular as possible. And where are the actual high intent leads coming from that make those sales? Because what you're looking for isn't, oh, these are the average CPL across them. You're looking where you get over indexing of performance to the actual places that are driving sales. Because you might get 100 sales from Google and you're just tracking it as a single source from Google. But then, you have like 10 keywords that are driving them. And you suddenly look back and go, hold on, there's 2 keywords that are driving all those sales. Everything else is basically wasted. That's why tracking the channel is so incredibly important.
Say in this context, the person generating the lead, or the person perhaps recording the lead that's coming from a portal, depending on where it's coming from, is essential that all the information of where that lead came from, as much as you can, goes in right through the system, into their CRM, into the follow-up. Not just so that how they deal with that follow-up is more appropriate to the lead and understand the intent, etc., but also so that when it does hit the sale, you can track right back to what is working and what isn't. And I know from my own experience in real estate lead gen, is nearly always you're surprised to find out that the thing you didn't think was producing the sales is what's producing the sales, and the obvious ones aren't. And you wouldn't know, you would, like you say, you just put under an umbrella, oh, Google Ads is working, or this portal is working, or this activity is working, and you're probably spending 80% of your budget on something that's generating 20% of the return, unless you look into it.
I have a lot of conversations with our clients because they'll just ring me and go, what's the problem with this? So I'll go, okay, let's look at the stats. I go, you need to turn that source off, basically, or this thing. And they'll go, yeah, but that's where like all our leads are coming from. And it's like, yeah, but where are your sales coming from? Right. What's generating the leads isn't necessarily generating the sales. So stop seeing leads as a measure of success. It doesn't mean anything. It's sales that are success. It's the ROI of those leads. And the minute you start measuring that, you start cutting things and putting more budget behind the things that actually work. So don't see leads as success.
In real estate, the transaction volume is relatively low, and the period from lead to sale is quite long comparatively to other things. They're big purchases, and generally they're selling to international buyers. So there's a time gap in between the lead and the sale that could be several months or even up to a year. So the person that is going to start with a lead generation activity or a channel for leads, it might be a little while before they know what sale they have, and it might just be 1 for this and 2 for that. They're not big numbers. You won't get a sale in the first month, for argument's sake, from a brand new campaign for real estate for a luxury villa. So the temptation would then be, well, the cost per lead, let's look at that. Oh, I've had 10 leads at €100 a lead. Let's change it. Let's do this. Let's do that. And you're basically making amendments to something that has not produced a sale yet. So you don't really know the end goal of it.
I think there's quite an easy way to deal with that, though, which is you're looking for signals. So if all those sales that you've made, so I'm imagining they're not a brand new company that are selling properties here. They've been doing it for 5 years or something. They've got a bunch of them. If you look in your CRM, so HubSpot, Salesforce, I don't know what you use, there's going to be signals that come pre-purchase. So it can be like that first conversation. What was the feedback? Is that categorized?
Right.
Is there like a trail that you can follow? So once you have that and you look back at the other, 200 sales that you made, say, or 100 sales over those 5 years, what were these signals that led up to those sales over that year-long process? So, that first conversation is like, spoke to Mr. Smith. He's very interested. He wants to come over to Spain on this date to come and look at a property. He's seen these 3 that he's interested in. He's willing to book a date now. And then there'll be others where it's like, spoke to Mr. Smith, not really bothered, blah, 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 whatever. And so where you have really long sales cycles, what you're really looking for is like cost per opportunity in a sense, because it's that signal of that opportunity which can then feed back to how successful these leads are. It can be really difficult when you have really long sales cycles. Where it's short, it's like relatively simple, right? If you're selling, something like broadband or energy or mobile phones, it's like fairly quick where people make decisions. But yeah, where it's longer, there's other signals that you have to measure, and I can guarantee there will be signals.
There's definitely a series of stages within the pipeline that are very clear in real estate. So you have the initial lead, then get the initial engagement and qualified to buy. Then there is maybe nowadays a virtual viewing or something that they can do remotely. Then there's a physical viewing. Then you go to offer, and you can put, these are like intermediary KPIs that if you can you start tracking the percentages of what leads to how many go to each stage. Even better if you already have what those typically are as a benchmark. Then even though the lead generating company hasn't produced a sale yet, you can track how is it looking against, have we had a better or similar level of engagement and qualification and viewings, and so you can look ahead a little bit and see, okay, is this all looking, are these signals sort of telling us that this is heading towards the conversion from lead to sale, which ultimately is what matters.
And it's basically just like qualitative and quantitative research. You're sort of going off the quantitative, which is the numbers within each bit of the qualitative feedback that the leads are actually giving you. That's definitely how you have to track longer sales cycles to be able to determine the quality of those leads on that initial thing. And that removes this thing again of going after the leads and saying we're looking at the leads. It's no, you're looking for these signals from those leads that come in. And again, you then start looking at the sources that are driving those positive signals.
So what would you say to an agency that is getting leads from 3-4 different sources? They're not really tracking where they're coming from. They're chucking them all in CRM, and they're basically getting a report from the people supplying the source. Here's my cost per lead and what you spent this month. Am I right in saying that you're saying that is not that valuable as a piece of information? Because
no, it doesn't mean anything, does it? Exactly like you said a few minutes ago, I'd get everything passed that's being, well, everything can be passed. So even if it was on Facebook, I'd be like, I want the ad. Even if it's not like, it would just say ad 1, ad 2, ad 3. I'd get the campaign that's created, the different landing pages. If there's audience types being generated differently, if you could pass that within it as well. Just because then when these leads come in and you're looking at whatever that first signal is, which is probably like first conversation or like, qualified to buy, you can just see instantly. It's like, okay, this is fairly simple, these pots that it's driving into. And then what's great about that is you actually drive the feedback from this back to the lead generator, or wherever the leads are being generated, the agency, the media buyer, the internal marketing team, because that's information they need to work off to drive more sales, not more leads. And so what happens is your actual lead volume goes down, which is a positive. Trust me, you want this to happen, and your sales go up.
It's more efficient use of time, money, and resources all around.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is you can just automate this, and that's kind of what our system does. And systems like HubSpot, Salesforce, everything else are designed to do this as well. Is basically, let's just break it down to what it is a marketing team generating leads, feeding it into a sales team, and you just need to combine those two things together so they're working to the same target, rather than one just being given generate leads and the other one being generate sales off those leads. But they're like, well, these leads are shit. And their marketing team will be like, yeah, the salespeople are shit. But you can actually quantify all this and combine it together.
Tell me a little bit about Databowl and how that works.
So we're based in the UK, but we have clients all over the world. I think we're in 27 countries now. We basically operate in two ways. So one is we work with a lot of companies buying leads to do pretty much what we've been saying. So when a lead is coming from somewhere, wherever that is, it could be Google, it could be an affiliate, it could be a lead generator, Facebook, whatever. It can come into the system. They can verify all the contact details. Is this a real person? Can I contact them? Have I received it as a lead or a prospect in a given time period? Is it a current customer, or is there any reason I need to suppress it? You can put caps on it to like the amount of leads that you'd actually accept. And then you can just API it out to a dialer, out to a CRM, out to a database, wherever it needs to go. And within Databowl, we're obviously tracking all the sources and subsources and all those things like keywords and everything else that we mentioned within it. And then when the buying entity receives it, so the dialer, the CRM, it can then feed back into Databowl via API or webhook, or you can do like CSV uploads to it, exactly the outcomes of all those leads. And then Databowl will then send that back to the lead generation process. So it basically sits in the middle between the marketing and sales and acts as like a feedback and information loop within it.
Kind of basically closing the gap between marketing and sales.
Yeah. And the other way that we operate is companies also build their landing pages in Databowl. So they'll then place that wherever they're going to put it to drive leads. And then we have all the verification built in, and all that process just happens again and sends it off to the sales team as well.
And would this work in the real estate side?
100%. Yeah. I mean, you've got to remember, we're pretty vertical agnostic, because ultimately what this is about is exactly what you say, is trying to connect sort of marketing and sales team, sitting in the middle and acting as this like point of truth that connects the two of them. And so, yeah, 100%. Anywhere that's generating leads and buying leads, you sort of need a system like this in the middle to do all of that, because it's just too much information for someone to do, and there aren't dedicated systems to do it other than one like ours. And there's always this perception, that people say, I don't want to feed back results of leads, and, or lead generators might say, well, I don't want to send over the exact ad that's being tracked and whatever. All of that's just bullshit, because really it's just like lack of transparency, which suggests a lack of trust between the two entities. And if you don't trust each other, why are you sort of working together? Why are you like giving the crown jewels to different parties? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Simon. It's nice to be on the receiving end of our masterclass on the subject.
It's been nice chatting to you. Thanks for that.